You know, Choom, if you really stop and think on it, Michael Jackson had every damn reason to turn into Johnny Silverhand. Reckon that sounds mighty crazy, don't it? Well, saddle up. We're fixin' to get into it, yeah, Preem? All right, y'all. Jakey here again. Who am I? Just a Choom who knows stuff that's all no one special. Been in Night City long enough to see gonks rise, fall, and get flatlined, but I'm no merc. No sir-e. Don't got the chrome or stomach for that kind of life. Just here to earn, learn, and delta the hell out when the time is right. Alrighty, so with introductions out of the way, pull up a chair, grab yourself a drink, and keep your chrome plugged in. Because today, we're talking about one of the biggest legends to ever walk this planet. And no, before you start checking your scanners, you didn't click the wrong channel. We ain't talking about some Night City merc, nor about some chrome-plated solo with a bad attitude and a death wish. Nope. Today, we're talking about the one and only Michael Jackson. Now, I know what some of you gonks are thinking. Jakey, what in the hell does Michael Jackson have to do with Cyberpunk? Well, funny you should ask. Because if you've spent any time in Night City, you already know the oldest story in the book. A talented gonk creates something incredible. The world loves it. Then, eventually, a corporation comes a-knockin'. And that, my chooms, is where things get interesting. Because Michael Jackson wasn't just famous. Famous is what you call a guy with 1 million followers and a sponsored drink deal. Nah, MJ was something different. That man was a worldwide event. And here's the real kicker. He hit that kind of legend status before social media ever crawled out of the gutter. Back when there weren't no feeds to scroll, no algorithms, no endless stream of gonks fighting for eyeballs every 5 seconds. Didn't matter where you hailed from, different countries, different languages, different cultures. Soon as Michael stepped out on that stage, the whole damn planet knew. Poor gonks were passing out, crying, dry heaving, flatlining emotionally, just hoping to catch a glimpse of the man. That ain't fame, Choom. That ain't popularity neither. That's the kind of rep that turns a regular flesh and blood human into a Night City legend. The kind of name folks remember long after the chrome rusts. And between you and me, I ain't convinced we'll ever see that again. World's different now. Back then, one person could become the biggest name on the whole damn earth. Nowadays, everybody's scrapping over 5 lousy seconds of attention before the next gonk with a camera bumps them clean out of the feed. The data streams move too damn fast. The noise never lets up. So tell me this, Choom. In a world where everybody's famous for a minute, can anybody ever become truly legendary again? A true global phenomenon that's gone freaking nova? Because like I said, now everybody's fighting for 5 seconds of attention before the next gonk with a camera replaces them. Now, a true icon? That's becoming rarer than a clean apartment in Night City. Michael Jackson was one of the last ones, the last true rock star. And speaking of rock stars, let's talk about Johnny Silverhand, because Johnny wasn't just some loudmouth rocker boy with a guitar and a superiority complex. Well, okay, he was definitely that too. But underneath all the ego, Johnny represented something. The artist fighting against the machine, the human being saying, "You don't own me."
Okay, I'll tell you why I want to destroy Arasaka, but I'll only tell you once. Want to hear it? I saw a corpse strip farmers of water, and eventually of land. Saw them transform Night City into a machine fueled by people's crushed spirits, broken dreams, and emptied pockets. Corps have long controlled our lives, taken lots, and now they're after our souls. V, I've declared war not because capitalism's a thorn in my side or out of nostalgia for an America gone by. This war's a people's war against a system that spiraled out of our control. It's a war against the forces of entropy. Understand? Do whatever it takes to stop them, defeat them, gut them. If I gotta kill, I'll kill.
And that's where the parallels with Michael Jackson start getting mighty interesting. Because Michael had every reason to become a real-world Johnny Silverhand. Think about it. A world-famous artist. A man who changed entertainment forever. A creator whose work generated billions. And eventually he found himself locked in a battle with one of the biggest corporations in the game. Sony. Now, I'm not saying Sony was literally Arasaka sitting in a skyscraper somewhere, feeding executives into a giant corpo machine. Calm down, chooms. Don't start throwing your keyboards, but the similarities, they're there. A powerful artist, a powerful corporation, a fight over ownership, a fight over control, a fight over who gets the final say. That's Cyberpunk 101. Michael had conflicts with Sony surrounding business dealings, his music catalog, and creative control. And during that very public feud, he famously called Sony Music chairman Tommy Mottola the devil.
And Tommy Mottola is a devil.
Now, whether you look at that situation as a business dispute, a personal falling out, or two powerful forces clashing, you gotta admit, the symbolism writes itself. The artist versus the corporation. The creator versus the machine. The rocker boy versus Arasaka. Now here's where the story gets even more interesting, because I know Michael Jackson is one of those names where people immediately bring up the allegations surrounding him, and everybody has their own opinion. But if you look at the legal record, investigations, and the fact that certain cases did not result in convictions, it paints a more complicated picture than the simple headlines people often repeat. And that's part of why the Johnny Silverhand comparison works. Because Johnny lived in a world where corporations and media controlled the narrative. And Michael lived in a world where public perception could change overnight. The entire planet was watching. Every move, every headline, every rumor. That's a heavy burden for any human being. Now, speaking of Johnny Silverhand, we gotta talk about the guy carrying him around, V.
Huh? Me?
Yep, you.
Who the hell? Hold up. Jakey.
Ah, shoot. Wrong channel.
Wait, what?
My mistake, Choom. Gotta run.
Hey, hold on a damn second. You...
Ah, that'll do. Gee, Jakey, you're getting sloppy. The heck went wrong there? That wasn't supposed to happen. Dadgummit. Anywho, like I was saying, speaking of Johnny Silverhand, we gotta talk about V, the one carrying him around. Because these days, chooms, you really can't mention Johnny without mentioning that chromed-up freak of nature we know as V. That poor choom woke up one morning and found out the biggest problem in their life wasn't an angry fixer or a bad gig. Nope. It was having a legendary rocker boy terrorist living rent-free inside their skull. Talk about a bad apartment situation. But V isn't just some random merc. When people talk about the most dangerous legends Night City has ever produced, three names always enter the conversation. Morgan Blackhand, Adam Smasher, and V. Now, I saw a comment from a choom that got me thinking. They said, V and Morgan Blackhand are basically top of the verse. No shame losing to either of them. V's the peak of human will with two minds and a limitless body, and Morgan is the peak of human skill that still manages to outdo every merc who has been up against him, including Adam Smasher. Then another choom replied, I kind of see V, Blackhand, and Smasher as essentially Night City's triforce, Smasher being the triforce of power, Blackhand the triforce of wisdom, and V the triforce of courage. Smasher can't beat Blackhand nor V. V is beyond courageous to a point of delusion, taking unheard of gigs and missions like soloing Arasaka Tower, pure courage and self-belief. While Blackhand will beat you on sheer finesse, being so tactical and calculating, Smasher is like Ganondorf. Now hold on a second, chooms. That's actually a pretty Nova comparison. Because remember when we talked about Zelda? The parallels are sitting right there. Night City is basically its own twisted version of Hyrule. You've got your three legends at the top, your three forces, your triforce, Adam Smasher, the monster, the unstoppable weapon, pure power, Morgan Blackhand, the master, the strategist, the guy who proves skill beats brute force, and V, the player character, the wild card, the one who keeps pushing forward when every logical person would have already hit the eject button, just like Link, the hero who keeps walking into impossible situations because he believes he can win. And then there's Johnny, the rebel, the guy who looked at the system and said, forget playing by the rules. Which brings us right back to Michael Jackson. Hell, on a side note, ain't it kind of funny how I just went completely off track there? Started with one conversation, ended up somewhere else entirely. Full on Zelda and shit. Huh. I got a habit of doing that, don't I? Guess that's just how we roll around here. Anyway. Now Jackson, he could have gone full Johnny Silverhand. He had the resources, he had the fame, he had the influence, he had every reason to wage war against the corporation, but instead, he chose creation. He put the frustration into the music, he put the pain into the art, he kept creating, and that's something people underestimate. Destroying something is easy. Building something, that's the hard part. Anybody can burn down a building. Not everybody can build a skyscraper. Now, unfortunately, chooms, there's another cyberpunk lesson here. The corporation usually wins. That's the ugly reality. One person can be brilliant. One person can change the world. But corporations, they've got endless money, endless lawyers, endless time. That's a tough boss fight. And it ain't just fiction. Look around. Corporations today keep moving toward more control over what people buy, what they own, and even what they're allowed to access. Take this whole shift toward digital-only gaming. That's got a whole lot of folks fired up, and honestly, I get it. Because there's a mighty big difference between owning a game and simply paying for a license to play one. Back in the day, you'd buy a physical copy. It sat on your shelf. You could pop it in years later, lend it to a buddy, sell it, or keep it forever. It was yours. Now, your entire library lives behind an account, behind somebody else's servers, behind terms and conditions you didn't write. If that account gets suspended, if a game loses support, if the servers ever go dark, or if a license disappears, well, what exactly do you still own? That's the question folks are asking. Because when everything you paid for only exists as long as someone else lets you access it, it starts feeling less like ownership and more like a long-term rental into the digital graveyard, choom. And that's when people start looking around and saying, man, this is starting to feel a little too much like Night City. Now, before anybody gets mad at me, I'm literally sitting here with a Sony console too. This ain't me declaring war on PlayStation, and I sure ain't saying every corpo's fixin' to shove a chip in your brain. Relax. But when people talk about companies that give off Arasaka vibes, Sony is definitely one that gets brought into that conversation. Funny how life imitates art, ain't it? Anyway, chooms, that's what makes Michael Jackson's story so interesting. He had every reason to become Johnny Silverhand, but he didn't. He didn't try to burn everything down. He created. He left behind something bigger than any corporation. Because maybe the strongest rebellion isn't destroying the machine, maybe it's creating something the machine can never erase. And that's a lesson even Night City could learn. Now, what do you chooms think? Was Michael Jackson the closest thing we ever had to a real-world rocker boy legend? Could he have become Johnny Silverhand, or was choosing art over revenge the reason his legacy survived? Either way, the man left a mark, and in a world where everybody wants to be remembered, that's the rarest chrome of them all. Jakey out.